I leaned into leniency with Annika because I wanted the waters to be smooth for her. But the result was that she was basically parenting herself. I became a permissive parent who avoided discipline and indulged my daughter. This wasn't intentional. I just didn't recognize that my permissiveness was being driven by my own discomfort and my need to shield her from any discomfort.
Welcome to the Blended Family Breakthrough Podcast. We're your hosts, Mike and Kim.
We believe in a world where blended families can experience a future full of hope, connection, and peace.
That's why we offer tools, strategies, and guidance that move you from a place of confusion and conflict to experiencing a life of confidence and connection.
We're so glad you're joining us for authentic and sometimes comical conversations as we cover everything from romance to parenting, and yes, even dealing with that difficult ex.
So if you're ready to experience breakthrough in your blended family, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Well, hey there, welcome. Thank you again. I know I thank you every single time, but thank you for being here with us. It's such a special privilege to have you choose to spend time with us each week. Hey, if we're bringing value, I want to encourage you to do two things. Number one, wherever you happen to be listening, just give us a star rating. However this brings you value, tell us, give us that feedback. We want to hear that from you. And I know somewhere in your life, a friend, a coworker, a community member, whoever is also struggling with blended family dynamics. So would you share this out to your social network and just have them come and listen to the show? We would so appreciate that.
Absolutely, we would.
All right. You want to hop in, honey?
Sure. You know, I'm very vocal about this, but one of my biggest challenges over the years is parenting. And we do talk a lot about this on the show with good reason. Parenting is a tough job, regardless of the circumstances. And then there are added stresses and deeper challenges for those of us parenting kids through loss, whether that's due to divorce, death, or abandonment. It's just not easy.
Yeah.
Any parent who's walked through seasons of grief and sadness with their children knows this. My daughter Annika was only 2 when her dad and I separated, and even at that young age, she could feel the shift. Confusion, sadness, longing, especially on those tough transition days. The truth is, it doesn't matter how old your kids are. Loss of first family identity is hard.
Yeah.
Whether young children, older kids, or even adult children, as the only family they've known drastically shifts, loss and pain emerge, and the emotional fallout can often be long-lasting.
That's right. And not only are your kids hurting, but you're hurting too, right? You're grieving your own loss while trying to keep everything afloat. You've probably spent some time in survival mode, juggling logistics, holding everything together, carrying the full weight of parenting. Like you're still responsible for all the heavy lifting, right? Guiding, teaching, leading, and yes, correcting and discipline too, even while your heart is heavy.
Yes. You know, as a single mom, I was grieving the loss of the dream. I never imagined that my marriage would end or that my daughter would grow up in 2 homes. Eventually 2 separate families. It took me a long time to accept how things had turned out. And while that acceptance brought some relief, I still found myself parenting from a place of guilt, fear, and insecurity.
Yeah. And that's really common. When parents feel bad for what their kids have gone through, they often overcompensate. They don't want their kids to experience further discomfort, so they ease up on structure. A parent might let hygiene habits slide, or allow for late bedtimes, or skip enforcing homework, or give them a screen without any limits, or doing chores. Like the list goes on, right? And really, that just kind of stops emphasizing character traits, things like honesty, respect, responsibility. Like those are the things we want to teach our kids. And these things can quietly disappear kind of under the radar because the parent is highly focused on creating ease and comfort for their child.
A while back, we had Krista St. Germain on the show to talk about grief. It was really an awesome discussion, and something she shared really stuck with me. And I think it's so powerful that we're just going to play a few minutes of that interview for you right now.
There is such value in curiosity as it relates to what we've been taught the point of life is in the first place. I think so many of us, myself included, have bought into the idea that the waters are supposed to be smooth, right? That happiness is the goal. And when that's the goal that we're pursuing or what we're expecting, it should be like, then of course it makes sense that we're going to try to minimize conflict and just, be permissive, especially when we've already perceived they've been through so much, so I'll just give them what they want and I'll buy them the extra thing. And I won't keep the boundary or enforce the consequence because we've decided that smooth sailing is the goal.
Right.
It's the way it's supposed to be. But if we can get curious about that, right? And the conclusion that I came to, but I want, other people to come to their own conclusions, is that I don't think that is the point. I don't think the point is for the waters to be smooth and for there to be, no conflict. And that I don't think happiness is the goal, right? I think the full spectrum of human emotion is supposed to be part of the experience. I think bad things are going to happen as humans, right? So instead of the goal being, can I get rid of all of the waves for my kids so there's never any waves? It's how can I help them learn to surf the waves? How can I help them learn to anticipate the waves and adjust to the waves? Because though that is what it's like to be a human on this planet, my experience.
Absolutely.
And if I am out there mowing the lawn in front of them, and trying to clear the path, that's not really preparing them for what it is like to be human. And so but also what that requires is discomfort, right? It requires me internally to find within myself a level of comfort with my own discomfort.
Yeah.
Right. And a level of comfort with their discomfort.
Right.
And that's not something a lot of people are teaching. I bet you probably are. Right, you're probably helping. You're right.
We just recorded an episode on managing, tolerating discomfort and distress. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And if we're always like, oh, nope, distress equals must solve problem, must be permissive, must, then that's I think what makes that pattern so much easier to fall into.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, wait, what if it actually is about increasing our ability to tolerate discomfort, increasing our ability to, feel powerless and make peace with that. And some of those things that go against be happy.
Does it ever feel like people just don't get how tough it is to blend a family? What if you could experience a community that's all about healthy support, guidance, and practical strategies that help you thrive in your blended family? Well, now you can. Blending Together is a supportive community for blended family couples just like you.
We've educated and supported hundreds of couples navigating the unique challenges of blended family life. Now we're inviting you to join our community and experience the transformation that awaits you. Blending Together is not just another community. It's a place where you'll find practical, real-life strategies for building unity as a couple,
creating more connection as a family,
experiencing partnership in parenting,
and even dealing with that difficult ex.
Blending Together is a safe, growth-focused space where you'll get to connect with us and maybe more importantly, with other blended family couples who truly understand what you're going through. Along the way, you'll discover practical tools, guidance, and hope that empower you to find a future full of confidence and connection.
When you join Blending Together, you'll gain access to a variety of resources like our private Facebook group and online learning platform, monthly coaching meetings, monthly Q&As, and you'll even get to vote on the content for our monthly workshops.
Blending a family can often leave couples feeling alone or isolated, and quality support can sometimes be expensive and hard to find. That's why we're offering you access to all of this at a super low monthly rate, because every blended family deserves the opportunity to thrive regardless of their budget.
So scroll all the way to the bottom of the show notes and click the link to join us in the Blending Together community and meet other couples just like you in our upcoming community meeting. Plus, when you join before the end of the month, you'll gain access to our brand new bonus mini course that will help you make quick headway. Hey, thanks so much for joining us today. We can't wait to meet you inside Blending Together. Just click the link all the way at the bottom of the show notes to get started.
We'll see you there.
Man, that is so good. And honey, I think that probably stuck with you because maybe you can relate.
Absolutely. I've been there. I leaned into leniency with Annika because I wanted the waters to be smooth for her. But the result was that she was basically parenting herself. I became a permissive parent who avoided discipline and indulged my daughter by giving her whatever she wanted. And this wasn't intentional. I just didn't recognize that my permissiveness was being driven by my own discomfort and my need to shield her from any discomfort. I was experiencing, like I said, a lot of guilt, fear, and a deep sense of insecurity, and that's what was driving my parenting decisions.
Yeah, as you talk about that, two memories kind of come to mind, honey. Can I share those?
Of course.
Okay.
Go for it.
So I remember our very first argument, and it was over Annika primarily not having a set bedtime.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
So that was like one memory that kind of gets jogged for me.
Yeah, you were kind of confused. Why does she go to bed whenever she wants?
Yeah,
there's no structure
here.
Weird.
The other one is all about top ramen noodles.
Oh, gosh.
Like, it just seemed to me that about the only thing Annika would eat was top ramen, and the majority of the time, you just kept feeding it to her.
Right. She got what she wanted.
Yeah, you made it. She couldn't make it herself, right?
Yeah.
So let's dig into that for just a bit. Can you talk a little bit about what was going on inside for you, those feelings of guilt and fear that were driving your permissive patterns? Like, what were you believing about yourself or about your parenting during that time?
The guilt that I carried was pretty constant, and it was fueled by regrets and thoughts like, why didn't I see this coming? What could I have done differently to protect her? When Annika was sad because she missed her dad, or she clung to me crying, not wanting to go to his house because she was going to miss me, I internalized all of that struggle. I saw her emotional pain as my failure. This is my fault. I'm to blame. I should have been able to protect her from all of this. So when it came to parenting, it felt like every decision I made as a parent was passing through this emotional filter. And when I came across the term paralyzed parent, man, I could really relate.
Right. And when you feel that kind of responsibility for your child's pain, it makes sense that you'd feel kind of stuck as a parent, right? It's pretty hard to move forward in a healthy way when you're paralyzed by guilt.
Right.
And for most parents experiencing that, it often leads to permissiveness.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the fear that I experienced, that came from the complexities of co-parenting, especially only having my daughter half the time, right? I didn't want our limited time together to be spent correcting or disciplining her or disappointing her. I really wanted it to feel light and fun and to create happy memories only, right? But underneath that, I was also scared. I was worried that if I was the only one doing the hard work of discipline, that Annika might associate my home with something negative and prefer being at her dad's house more.
So it's like if I enforce a bedtime or expect chores to be done or call out poor behavior or ask you to eat something other than ramen noodles, my kids might see me as that mean parent or they're not going to like me. And then the fear kicks in. Oh, what if that makes them not want to come back? What if I lose their favor? Is that the kind of fear that you're facing, honey?
Exactly. And then I'd spiral in my thinking and start catastrophizing the outcome. And it only got worse when I noticed that her dad had very few expectations over in his home. So Annika could eat all the ramen noodles she wanted over there as well.
Yeah.
And she didn't seem to be responsible for any chores.
So from your perspective, your ex was also permissive as a single parent.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, wow, like I totally relate to that guilt and that fear, we just want you to know that you're not alone. Like we're so glad that you're here with us today.
That's right. Because if I could move forward from that stuck place, you know what? You can too. You really can. And if you aren't sure if you tend to lean towards permissive parenting or which style you tend to approach parenting, we've included a link in the show notes to a free parenting style quiz, and that can help you assess your current approach to parenting and get some clarity around that.
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool. Go check it out. Yeah. Honey, you mentioned earlier that insecurity also seems to be a struggle for you. Can you talk a little more about that?
Sure. You know, growing up, I had a lot of experience caring for kids. I helped raise my younger siblings. I babysat a lot as a teenager, and I had tons of younger cousins. I was really confident with changing diapers and feeding and playing and all of that. But I didn't have any real authority in those situations. I was just kind of the helper. So when I became a parent myself, I realized that I didn't actually know how to guide or discipline. I hadn't developed those skills. And when Annika misbehaved or pushed back, I just kind of froze. I didn't know how to respond. Add to that the fact that my own parents were not consistent or effective with discipline. I really had no solid examples to follow or draw from.
So you were confident in caregiving, but felt completely insecure when it came to leading with loving authority and actually managing behavior.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that kind of helps to paint a picture of how and why you leaned into permissiveness. And I know there are listeners who might really relate to different parts of your story. Maybe guilt, fear, insecurity, lack of modeling, all of that stuff plays a part, right? So, honey, share what shifted when I came into the picture.
Ooh.
Because I just knew everything about parenting when I came into the picture. Right?
All right. Yeah, you thought you did.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, the guilt and the fear just intensified once we started out on our blended journey. Now, I probably told this story on the show before, but the night before our wedding, during our rehearsal, Annika pulled me aside and said, "Mom, I don't want you to marry Mike." She was very emotional and confused, and I was shocked. Up to that point, you know, she'd always seemed to really like you, and she was excited about us getting married. So even though it's normal, totally normal for kids to have mixed feelings when a parent remarries, I was overwhelmed with guilt. Am I choosing my happiness over hers? Am I doing the right thing? Will she think I don't love her as much? Will this marriage ruin everything for her? Will she end up pulling away from me?
And all of that just kind of added fuel to that guilt and that fear that you were experiencing, which only deepened the patterns of permissiveness.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes I even felt like I had to protect her from you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I kept trying to make up for any pain that she might be feeling. So that meant overlooking behaviors that I should have addressed and giving in to her every whim.
Yeah. So it's probably fair to say that in your single mom years, you probably parented from this certain place. I'm going to use one word, but then that even got amplified when you and I got married. And that place you were parenting from, could we say that's from pity?
Absolutely. That's what was happening.
Yeah.
I saw my daughter as emotionally fragile. I wanted to protect her from anything difficult or painful, and I felt like I had to somehow make it all right. even though deep down, I knew there was no way of fixing things for her. So I attempted to shield her from discomfort because that was the only way that I could quiet my own challenging emotions like guilt and fear.
So if I can make every moment comfortable for her, now I don't have to feel fearful or guilty.
Yeah, if everything goes her way, she's not going to experience anything painful, and then that's not going to trigger anything uncomfortable inside of me emotionally.
Okay, so underneath all of that, it actually sounds like what you really wanted was to protect the foundation where both you and Annika felt loved, safe, and secure in your relationship as mother and daughter.
Mm-hmm.
But then this divorce happens and that foundation gets rocked. And then you and I get married. And then you have this even bigger concern that now I'm kicking up more fear in Annika that her love and her safety with you as mom is being threatened again, which then deepens your guilt and your fear. Do I have any of that right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Those dynamics made it really hard to break free from permissive parenting. I think there's a chapter in the book Building Love Together in Blended Families by Ron Deal and Gary Chapman. And the name of the chapter is When Loves Compete and Conflict. In that chapter, they explain that prior to entering stepfamily life, kids have already been through a lot. No parent wants their child to feel insecure or experience more pain. But the reality is that the relational shifts of a blended family often bring exactly that. Kids naturally push back when they sense their parents' emotional energy shifting towards a step-parent. Some kids get angry, some withdraw, others toss out guilt trips or go silent. But underneath all that behavior is usually one unspoken message. Did I just lose you? And if I did, please come back.
That's pretty powerful.
That's what's going on for a lot of kids.
Yeah. So with all that as a background, parents really need to understand and anticipate that emotional response. And they also have to find the strength to respond well. And that means doing two primary things. First, supporting your child emotionally. And second, pushing through that guilt, fear, and insecurity so that you can reclaim your parental authority and stop parenting from a place of emotional reactivity.
That's right. I really love something Ron and Gary say in that book. They say, what kids need is your strong, comforting leadership, not your pity. I eventually realized that my pity for Annika was not helping her. What she needed was consistency, structure, and guidance from a parent who loved her enough to set healthy boundaries and instill solid character traits. All kids need that kind of leadership. Now, they may resist it in the moment, but appropriate limits and guidance make kids feel secure, valued, and loved.
You know, whether it's guilt, fear, or insecurity, when those emotions go unchecked, they can paralyze a parent. And when a parent is stuck in that place, the effects can be pretty damaging, not just to the child, but to the entire stepfamily. And we've lived it, right? Like we've seen the fallout. A lack of a parental authority creates a breeding ground for disrespect, defiance, and chaos that can ripple through every part of family life.
Now, you may have some valid reasons for leaning into leniency. But if your goal as a parent is to raise kids that are respectful, responsible, resilient, and emotionally healthy, then you must maintain your role as a trusted leader in their lives, which means you'll have to learn to overcome guilt, fear, insecurity, or anything else that might be keeping you stuck. I had to learn that myself. After years of parenting from fear, I realized that most of my worries never came true. They were rooted in my own insecurities, not in reality. When I finally did make the decision to stop letting guilt and insecurity define my parenting, everything changed. I took parenting classes, read books, and I learned how to shift from permissive to an authoritative parenting style.
Right. So Annika didn't need pity. She needed a strong, compassionate leader. And that's what authoritative parenting is all about. It's centered on love and limits. And the research backs it up. Authoritative parenting consistently produces the best outcomes for kids across every measure and in every kind of family structure.
That's right. And to understand why that's true, let's circle back to the first thing parents need to do that we mentioned a minute ago, which is to support your child emotionally. And there's a big difference between responding with pity and responding with empathy when you see that your child is struggling. So let's talk about that for a moment. Some parents confuse pity with empathy, and that mix-up can lead to trouble. When parents lean towards pity or sympathy, they often feel sorry for their child and try to rescue them from hard things. And while this may seem kind in the moment, it can lead to enabling behavior, where the parent steps in too often, makes excuses, or lowers expectations. And over time, this can create a sense of entitlement in kids. They may start playing the victim to avoid responsibility or blame others or manipulate situations to get what they want instead of learning to work through challenges and grow in self-sufficiency.
And now empathy, on the other hand, is something entirely different, and it's far more powerful. Empathy doesn't require lowering the bar or changing the rules. It's actually about emotional connection. When a parent truly tries to understand how their child is feeling and then sits with that feeling for a moment and responds with care, and that makes a huge difference. That simple act of attunement tells the child, you're not alone. I see you and I understand. And that's where the healing happens. And children learn to take responsibility for themselves when they're in this empathetic environment. Empathy helps kids feel secure, supported, and seen. It actually builds resilience, empowerment, and self-confidence, and it also teaches them how to face difficulty without falling apart or expecting someone else to just fix it for them or rescue them. The difference between pity and empathy isn't that complicated, but it is crucial. Pity says, poor you, let me take care of that for you. I'm here to shield you from all that discomfort. Empathy says, hey, I see you and I'm with you. And I also know you can do hard things. I believe in you. And that shift in mindset can really change a child's entire future.
Which is exactly why authoritative parenting consistently leads to the best outcomes for kids. It begins with empathy and stays focused on teaching, guiding, and reinforcing solid values, character traits, and life skills.
When we're coaching blended couples, it's not uncommon at all to identify a little permissiveness or sometimes even a paralyzed parent. The signs are usually pretty clear. One partner shares some common struggles in the home. Maybe the stepchild is refusing to help out or ignoring house rules, spending too much time on their phone, speaking disrespectfully, like the list goes on and on. Then when the bio parent responds, sometimes we hear the minimizing or deflecting or defending the child's poor behavior, kind of explaining it away rather than actually addressing it.
And often that parent knows deep down that the behavior is a problem, but the thought of stepping in to change it feels really overwhelming, even scary. I get that actually, because I have been there.
Yeah.
Long-standing habits develop over time, and both we and our kids get used to those patterns. Just the idea of asking your child to do chores or limit their screen time or correct disrespectful behavior, that can feel almost impossible if you have these long-standing patterns.
Yep.
I remember feeling like I would never be able to shift my parenting and that my daughter would never respond to my authority. But you know what? I was wrong. What she actually needed was for me to step up and claim healthy authority. Shifting from permissive to authoritative parenting was way more doable than I imagined. I didn't have to become someone I'm not. That's the beauty of empathy. I could still show up for Annika emotionally and be a safe place for her without giving up my role as a responsible parent. But it did take some intentional effort and a willingness to learn new parenting skills so that I could overcome my insecurity and parent from a place of confidence.
You know, empathy opens the door, but we've still got to walk through it with some courage and clarity.
Right.
Teaching, guiding, and holding healthy limits is part of loving our kids really well. And if you're listening right now and thinking, that's me, I've been permissive and I don't know how to turn things around, we want you to know that we're here to help. You can become an authoritative parent, and it will change the trajectory not only for your child, but for your entire blended family. You'll find a link in the show notes to schedule a free coaching call with us, and we would love to support you. And we've also included a link that will take you to some other episodes that focus on parenting and discipline. So that's a great place to start as well. We really encourage you to lean into learning ways to emotionally support your kids and grow healthy authority at the same time. So go check that out in the show notes.
You know, my aha moment came when I realized that if I didn't change my parenting approach, if I kept doing what I'd always done as a permissive parent, I would eventually look back with regret. I wasn't willing to let my discomfort with change outweigh what was best for my daughter. Deep down, I had concerns about where we were headed and how she might turn out if I didn't step up and make some adjustments. And the truth is, you'll never regret the steps that you take or the effort you put into becoming a stronger, more effective parent.
Absolutely. Now, that leads us to the second key shift that parents need to make, and that's pushing through the guilt, the fear, and the insecurity. You've got to reclaim your parental authority and stop parenting from this place of emotional reactivity.
And that's not easy. At least it wasn't for me. But when we lean into the process, we start to experience the value of healthy authority and leadership. I couldn't move past my own reactivity until I worked through it. I needed some help for that. The guilt and fear that kept me stuck in permissive parenting had to be exposed, challenged, and released. I had to, I like to say, feel, deal, and heal. What that took was some counseling and parenting classes. I had to read some books and reach out for guidance from others who had walked this road. None of this happened overnight. It was a journey that required intention and effort.
Absolutely. And until a parent is free from the emotional weight that's influencing those decisions, whether it's guilt, fear, or insecurity, they'll struggle to do anything different, really. They most often are going to stay stuck, and emotional reactivity will continue to drive your parenting. Now, I know this is a conversation for a different episode, but I want to talk to step parents for a moment. If you've got a parent listening to this right now and they're thinking, oh man, this is me and this work doesn't sound like any fun. Step parents, you pressuring them is not going to help. It's going to actually backfire on you. So again, this is for a totally separate episode, but I just want to call step parents to become a support, become a cheerleader for your spouse or partner who genuinely is trying to make changes in this area, because they don't want to stay stuck, but it is possible that you could keep them there. And I'm only speaking from experience because like I said earlier, I came in thinking I was a parenting expert, even though I had no idea what I was doing. And I know, honey, that put a ton of pressure on you. And that actually stalled us out for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Made me feel like more of a failure because I couldn't do it fast enough and in the right way that you wanted.
That's right. So if you hear your partner say, you know what, I do think I'm stuck, don't become another stumbling block for them.
Yeah. And bio parents, you don't have to stay stuck. You can move beyond reactivity and parent from a place of calm, confident authority. And it's not just possible, it's essential if you want to be the parent that your kids truly need you to be. This is worthy work. I know it because I've done it. It changed everything for me, and it can for you too. If you want to begin that process, check out the show notes. We've linked to past episodes about overcoming guilt and fear. You can check those out to hear me share more of my own personal journey towards reclaiming authority with my daughter. And I can honestly say it's one of the best and most freeing things I've ever done for myself, for her, and for our blended family.
That's right. Let's wind it down with that powerful quote from Ron and Gary that you shared earlier, honey. What kids need is your strong, comforting leadership, not your pity. The next time your child shows some behavior that truly needs to be addressed, pause and take a look inside for a minute. What are you feeling in that moment? What thoughts are running through your mind? How do you typically respond in those hard parenting situations? Do you tend to excuse the behavior, minimize it, or avoid dealing with it altogether? And then ask yourself, am I feeling sorry for my child and wanting to rescue or protect them? Or am I genuinely concerned and curious, wondering what's behind the behavior and how it might affect them down the road if it goes unchecked?
Yeah. These are powerful reflections that can help you grow in your awareness of your patterns that have emerged. But awareness is just the first step. If you realize you're stuck in permissive parenting, caught in emotional reactivity, it's time to summon the courage to make a shift. You don't have to do this alone. We're here for you. We believe in you, and we'd love to support you with practical next steps. Check out the show notes to get started.
Yes, please don't stay stuck.
No.
Shifting from pity to empathy and avoiding parenting from a place of emotional reactivity is possible, and we'd love to help you take those next steps. And next week in our Simple Step episode, honey, you're going to be sharing some helpful resources that you used in your journey of moving from permissive to authoritative parenting.
That's right. These are practical tools you can utilize too. I'll also be sharing some stories.
Oh boy.
So be sure you're following the show on your favorite listening app because you don't want to miss it.
Awesome. All right. Well, again, thank you so much for spending your time with us today. We so appreciate it. Make sure you click a star rating for us before you head out, and we're going to make this episode a wrap.
Until next time.